63% of a buyer's satisfaction is not based on the product that you're selling. In fact, that 63% is 100% in your control. As a sales professional, you have a lot of influence over the purchase process. It starts with how quickly you build trust, the way you gather information and understand your buyer's needs and wants. You can continue to influence the purchase process by the way you introduce your buyer to a new perspective on their problems and how to connect your solution to solving those problems. What's interesting is that the customer satisfaction research by CEB Sales Leadership Council shows that psychological attributes influence the buyer satisfaction by 63% as compared to the functional attributes of the solution being purchased. That means you are in control of the sale. By psychological attributes, we mean things that build value throughout the buyer and seller interaction. Things such as providing a valuable business perspective on the industry, or helping clients avoid pitfalls, and helping the prospect gain company-wide support for the purchase. Accuracy and timeliness in responding to requests, displaying empathy, and also being dependable. As a sales professional, that is really great news. That means that the way you interact with the prospect is nearly twice as likely to influence your buyer as the actual product that you're selling. So let's dig into some tactics on how to interact with your prospects in a way that provides those crucial psychological attributes. As discussed in our communication style session, begin with understanding their preferred communication style so that you're compatible with how they prefer to communicate. Next, make sure to frame every detail in your discussion around WIFM. And I mean every detail. You see, regardless of their communication style, there's one thing that every buyer and coworker agrees with, and that's WIFM. It's not a radio station. WIFM stands for What's in it for me. And while that means something different for each person based on their preferred communication style, it's the first and foremost thought in your prospect's mind at all times. Top sales professionals understand the WIFM concept and structure every detail of their interactions accordingly. Here's how it works. It starts with an overarching essence of empathy. Remember, taking off your own shoes first allows you to put on your prospect's shoes. Your objective is to understand the world according to your prospect, how she feels, what she wants and needs, who she's trying to impress. We're talking every possible angle. Do remember to keep in mind that red communicators will see the same scenario different from yellow, green, or blue communicators. What's important here is you want to show your empathy, not say it. In other words, frame your sentences in a way that shows, not tells, that you understand her position. When you say, I understand, it says, I know I'm supposed to understand, but I'm really just thinking about what I'm going to say next. Instead, respond in a way that shows you have taken off your own shoes and put your prospect's shoes on. Phrases that start with it sounds like or it seems like are an easy way to show empathy. Think of how you would normally use this tactic outside of the workplace. Here's an example dialogue. A friend says, my goldfish died this morning. I'm so sad. And you say, I understand. Tell me more. All right, so you would never do that. But how many times have you heard sales professionals respond like this example? The prospect says, we've experienced too many bad service providers over the years, and we can't afford to make another mistake. So we're very picky when it comes to selecting vendors. Then the salesperson responds, I understand, and moves on to the next topic. Let's look at how a top sales professional would handle this conversation. The prospect says, we've experienced too many bad service providers over the years, and we can't afford to make another mistake. So we're very picky when it comes to selecting vendors. Now the salesperson responds, sounds like working with the wrong service providers has cost the company a lot of money. How have you adjusted your vendor selection process as a result? In this example, the sales professional is well on his way to building rapport and trust and is learning about how the prospect makes buying decisions. Way better. Another basic rule to show prospects what's in it for them is to frame sentences in a way that minimizes using the words I or me. You see, every time you use these words, your buyer subconsciously gets guarded because she knows that you're looking out for yourself. Remember, people are only tuned into what's in it for me. After all, if you start a sentence with, I'd love to, or I'd like to, your buyer already knows that the reason you'd love to show them the product or like to schedule a meeting is because you want to make the sale. Instead, frame your sentences in a way that shows you are tuned into what's in it for them. Take a look at these common phrases that most sales professionals say incorrectly. What I'd like to do now is show you how our solution works. I think our new model is going to be great for your needs. I'd love to schedule a meeting to show you how our product can save you money. Yes, I understand the price can seem a little expensive. Pause the video now and write down how you would rephrase these same sentences to show your prospect that you are tuned into her needs. So, how'd you do with reframing these sentences? Let's take a closer look. Instead of, what I'd like to do now is show you how our solution works, try something like this. Let's take a look to see if solution X can help solve the problems you're experiencing. Or in this example, I think our new model is going to be great for your needs. Try this. Sounds like we may be able to help. Instead of, I'd love to schedule a meeting to show you how our product can save you money. Try this. Let's regroup in person to see if there's a way we can help. For this last example, instead of saying, yes, I understand, the price can seem expensive, you could say, yes, it's important to stay on budget. By removing the focus from yourself and your own needs and setting it around your prospect needs, you're helping your buyer feel safe and drop her guard, and most importantly, feel more comfortable with your suggestion because, after all, it's based around her needs. There are several other small details that have a large impact on how guarded your prospect feels. Let's review other sales terminology do's and don'ts that, when said incorrectly, can cause your buyer's defenses to rise. The word contract makes buyers feel leery. Attorneys enforce contracts. However, partnerships are centered around agreements, and that's a big difference. People don't want to sign things because they feel committed. However, authorizing or approving makes them feel empowered. So instead of something like, once you sign the contract, we'll move forward, try this. After your approval on the service agreement, we'll move forward. Sounds way more empowering and partnership-based, doesn't it? Instead of schedule a meeting, which sounds like a time drain, use a phrase that insinuates working together and problem solving, like regroup, or if your industry calls for something more formal, even a strategy meeting sounds better. Never use the words deal with when explaining your interaction with someone. Think of how you feel when someone says, that's not my problem, you deal with it. Or, I don't have time to deal with this right now. Dealing with things has a subtle negative connotation. Instead, use work with. Even in the negative example just described, when you replace deal with the word work, it takes away the negative edge. For example, I don't have time to work on this right now. Instead of describing a procedure as confusing, use complex as it explains there's a lot going on, but not that you or your buyer can't understand it. And finally, never, and I mean never, use sales terminology with prospects. Words such as sales pitch, objections, commission, prospect. Using sales terminology highlights your role in the relationship as an old-school, untrustworthy salesperson, which is not the image you're working towards. Now that you know how to reframe your sentences to make your prospects feel more comfortable, you need to make a conscious effort to practice these skills with your friends and family and with customers out in the field. That way it becomes second nature for you. And when you're ready, I'd love to see you in the next session. Okay, let's try that again. When you're ready, get started on the next session so you can continue to work your way to the top 10% of your team.